Yes, good morning or good evening, I don't know.
Morning. It's morning here. How about you? Is it evening? Morning?
Fine, thank you.
Good. How is everybody?
Very good, thank you. It's morning for all of us as well.
Oh, amazing. That's awesome. If my voice breaks, let me know because I can see the video hang a little bit right now. So if my voice starts breaking, just let me know. Okay.
Okay, thank you. We'll let you know.
Okay.
So let's begin our session for today. So back and neck straight. Let's close the eyes and start connecting with the breath. Observe the natural flow of the breath. And make sure that your body is aligned. And when you feel stable and your mind begins to relax, you can just observe the breath. It will begin to deepen. And when you feel comfortable with your breath, you can begin to add the practice of kumbhak or retention. After you inhale, just hold the breath for 2 seconds and then exhale. Continue this breath pattern. And let's prepare the mind for chanting Om 3 times, followed by 3 Shantis. Exhale completely and then inhale for Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Let's join both the palms together and rub them together. Place them on the eyes. Very slowly while blinking and looking at the palm. Open up your eyes. Come back to the smile. And namaste to everyone. Let us begin today's session. So, yesterday we were on the topic of Jnana Yoga, and we were discussing the four main pillars which form your foundation for the core practices of Jnana Yoga. Yeah? So we were at the Shat Sampat. We had, I think, completed all the six virtues. Had we? No, I think one or two were left. I was at Shraddha, I think. I was explaining how the belief matters when you are practicing, and not only the belief, the faith actually in your practice. So there is a level of faith that you guys, even right now when you're sitting in philosophy class, pranayama, meditation, for asana there is more faith because it is very easy to observe. So that is why I generally don't mention asana when I give this example. However, even for asanas, there is a particular level of faith that you guys have, whatever you are looking for. Something you find in asana class, some part of it you find in pranayama, some in meditation, some in philosophy, some in Ayurveda. So each and every class you find little pieces of what you are looking for. And you will not be able to acquire that thing unless and until you do not have faith in yourself. First thing is self belief that you can acquire it, you are capable of acquiring it. Okay, one thing is that. Second thing that you have to develop is faith towards the teacher, right? Whoever is teaching you, or however they are instructing you, you just follow them, right? When we are teaching you something, or whenever any guru, if you have any guru currently, whenever they are teaching to you anything, it can be any little thing that they are telling you about, you need to have faith in order to actually be able to implement that in your life. Okay, so when any teacher is giving knowledge to you, then you have faith that whatever the teacher is saying will be true or will be correct, or at least it will benefit me, so it will be true for me for now, right? So, and when you experience that thing, that is when you realize that okay, it is having that impact, that effect on you. So you develop faith with time also as you go deeper into the practice. When you know it starts coming into your own experience, that is when your faith is also reinforced. So it's like constantly happening. So the more you practice, the more flexible you will get. So initially in our first 4 or 5 classes, maybe when you would have to do holding, especially when you have to hold in Parvatasana for sun salutation A and B. So initially it used to be like very tiring, or used to feel like this asana is not this is a relaxation asana, but I don't feel relaxed in this. Yeah, it happens sometimes with a lot of students that when that is the only break you get between the continuous flow of Surya Namaskar. And when you take Parvatasana, your teacher instructs you, take deep breaths, take Ujjayi breaths, it will relax you. And initially you are like just starting, so you feel like that's not going to happen. I do not find this position relaxing. And after 1 week, when you are in that flow, then finally what happens is that you start feeling that relaxation in Parvatas, and now you understand why you know instruction was given to take Ujjayi breaths and go for deep breaths, and how it is relaxing. So as you move ahead in your practice, see how your faith is also reinforced. So earlier you were just listening to the teacher because you had to do those things, and eventually when it came into your experience, your faith got reinforced that whatever the other person is saying would be true, because now your body has started relaxing. Now you can feel you know the right stretch, the proper stretch at that point of time. So this is how also faith works for us. Like the deeper we go into the practice, the more we realize that okay, it is like something is being said for some reason. basically. Okay. And same thing when you have faith in your practice also. This is very necessary. Unless and until you do not have faith in the practice, you will not be able to go really far. Okay. So I'm not saying that you won't be able to follow up, but going really far in your sadhana, in your spirituality, will be supported only when you are actually able to, have faith on that practice. If somebody keeps telling you, yoga is the way to attain samadhi, yoga is the way to attain samadhi, and you're just like, okay, they are saying it for a reason. Patanjali ji wrote it, wise man would have said something, would have told something, said it for a reason, okay, but you do not have faith in the practice. So for you, that practice will not bear that fruit. Okay. And when you do not believe in that thing, that is when you subconsciously reinforce that thing. So that practice isn't able to become that fruitful for you. So it's very important to understand that you know uh, if something is there, if you are doing something in your life, practicing anything in your life, it's because you have faith that that thing will take you to that place which you are aiming for. Okay, so it's not separate from yoga. It is um, it applies to everything in your life basically. Okay, it's not separate. Yoga is not separate, that you need to have separately have faith in that thing. This will become true for anything that you do in life. If you do not have faith in that practice, you will not be able to gain as much out of it. Okay, you might be doing it for one reason or the other, but you won't be able to attain a lot out of it. Okay, so having faith will give you a very strong push to move fast on your path. Okay, and the last one, the last virtue that you have to develop, that you have to work on, is the samadhan. Okay, Samadhan. I wrote it yesterday also. Okay, so samadhan. So that is one pointedness. After the Jnana Yogi is working on these on the previous five virtues. Okay, so earlier, all the five virtues, when the Jnana Yogi works on this, why are these virtues being given? Why are they called virtues in the first place? Why is controlling the mind a virtue, or controlling the senses a virtue? Because you need to reach that point of one pointedness, of focus. Yes, and all the above five virtues will help you with your sixth virtue, which is one pointedness. So it is something that you work on, you develop, yes, but it is also a combination of the result of the effort you put into the rest of the five. Because if my mind is not controlled, it will never be one pointed, right? If my senses keep running away, then I will never be able to get them in place, stabilize the mind, and then move ahead in my journey. If I do not withdraw the senses, suppose I'm connected with some sense, right? So if that thing happens, then also I will not be able to achieve that one pointedness, right? Because one, because it's not like I'm just connected to one sense. My senses will keep running and I will not realize when they are switching from one sense to the other, right? Because suppose I see a flower, I see a very beautiful flower. So I will instantly be fascinated by it, attracted to it, right? So I go walk towards that flower, and then I will have this desire of seeing what it smells like. So I would want to take the scent. So then I will go and I will smell the flower and I will see, and then I will be very happy when the scent is really beautiful, right? When you go to the rose, first thing, rose looks pretty attractive, and then when you go and smell that, oh my god, this scent is so beautiful. Same with lilies, they look so beautiful, and then when you go and you smell them, again, amazing. So you switch from one sense to the other. So when the senses are not controlled, they are not withdrawn, you will never even realize how they are switching from one to the other. Okay, so all of this effort you're putting in to reach the sixth virtue of developing the one pointedness of the mind. Okay. Yeah. Any doubts in anything so far? Anything that we have discussed?
Can I just quickly ask, are they in order then, or can they be in any order? Like we can't reach one pointedness before we withdraw the senses, or are they in that reason, or are they in that order particularly for a reason? They just happen to go that way. Yeah.
Yeah, they're in that order for this reason only, because each one will become a stepping stone for the other. Unless and until you do not develop your discrimination, you will never come to a state where you become detached, right? So,
Mm,
when you become detached, that is when you will actually start working on the things that you need to work on, right? If I'm constantly attached to something, then my entire energy goes towards that thing, right? When we are attached to someone or something, some situation in our life, we keep thinking about that thing only. So unless and until there is detachment, you will not be able to go in a stage where you can work on the six virtues, and all six are aligned in a way that one leads to the development of the other. Yeah, so all of this is given in proper order.
okay, and a lot, they all seem like they're pointing to meditation.
Yeah.
Like meditation, because to control the mind, to with the senses, withdrawal of senses, tolerance, faith, one pointedness. It's all like, it sounds like the Jnana yogi would be in meditation most of the time. Like,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
And the core, one of the core practices is actually meditation only. But for a Gyan Yogi, they need to develop their mind, their will in such a way so that they are at least becoming capable of listening to the truth. Okay, so when I come to core practices, when I will discuss those, so first is your listening only. So unless and until your mind is not strong enough, if we get to know about certain truths in life, like death is a truth, right? And when
Yeah.
some students cannot take that thing, they are not able to accept that thing. So the mind has to be really strong and developed in order to even attain the knowledge of Gyan Yoga. So this is like you're setting the base for yourself to be capable of even receiving that knowledge.
Okay. Mm. Okay, and I know we have another yogi type to look at, but people generally choose one form of a yoga type of yoga, and they follow that. Or, and I think you said before that you can have a mixture of all of them or something, but some people decide to specialize in or focus more, or they're drawn to one more than the others. Is that generally how it is?
Yes, generally, depending on your personality, you will be drawn to. I will be teaching you four main schools. So you will be
Mhm.
drawn to one of them, and that will become your starting point. However,
Yeah.
all of them will start merging. So for the
Mm.
Gyan, we also see the Shraddha is so important, faith is so important. So faith
Mm.
is not a mental thing, right? It is something you feel. You
Yeah.
feel faith, so it's an emotion. So bhakti will come over here also, but it is
Mm.
very subtly coming in. It's not waiting for you to start with emotion. It's
Mm.
taking your strength of acquiring knowledge, and then it is subtly inserting that sense of faith in your practice. Okay, so
Mhm.
everything will merge basically.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Great answer.
It will. You will, when you, like, even when you go into Hatha Yoga,
Mhm.
you have faith and you
Mm.
want to acquire knowledge, you want to learn more, right? So you are
Yeah.
trying to acquire knowledge, and it will lead to detachment also. So, and
Mm.
then you are working on the body with the body. So, when we work with the body, there is action. So, Karma Yoga is also coming in. So, everything is,
Mm.
even right now, whatever you're practicing, everything is together. It's just very
Mm.
hard to separate all of them.
Mm. Wow. I didn't think of it like that. It's sometimes a bit hard to think of how all of them are being used, because for me, I think I just associated them with groups or a particular, I don't know, temple or you know, just how it looks out there, but rather than how it looks in one's life, you know, where the actions may not be that big or the groups may not be that big, and you know, yeah, but it's still possible to work all types of these yogas, I suppose.
Yeah. So they were just developed because there are different personalities, and first tendency to go towards one thing is more than to go towards the other. But as you start connecting, you will realize you're doing all of them,
Yeah. Good.
everything
Thank you.
together.
Yeah.
And it's
Amazing.
totally about how you perceive the school of yoga. This is very important to understand. This is actually the main thing. It's not a way to divide, it's a way to unite, actually.
Oh,
So it
good.
depends on
Yeah.
how your intention, your emotion towards that
Yeah.
thing, rather than how the world is going about that is so
Mm.
important.
And it's more like the philosophical, the way of life and the choices, rather than asana practice. Asana is just one part, so it's not choosing a type of asana, you know, like Ashtanga, Hatha, you know, Vinyasa, but it's outside of the asana. It's the way of thinking behind the whole all of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, because you brought this up, let me give you one example of this thing. It's actually, uh, it was something that I experienced myself. So, when I enrolled for when I was studying basically yoga and, developing my own skills in these areas, there was a point when everything was about competition and how I was able to do an asana and how I wasn't able to do the asana. So my entire practice used to be about attaining that asana, because I needed to be in that asana to pass my exam. And entire practice was like mechanical work. And that was very dangerous, because I was not connected to my body and I used to overstretch. And thankfully I did not get any injury, but I saw a lot of people who did. So it was, after a while, it took me a lot of time to realize. And when I changed the intention behind my asana practice of being connect, it being a source to connect to my own self, that is when I felt each and every body part. As I practiced, I felt my breath, I felt the body open up very slowly. It takes so much time, and it needs time to adjust. So I used to practice very slowly and I used to breathe. And that is when I was doing the same action that everyone else was also doing. But uh, I experienced yoga in a very different manner. So I was able to use it as a source of connecting with myself rather than just achieving the posture. And I saw a few other people also practice like that. And it was actually when I saw them practice in that way that I got inspired. That, it's not about how much movement you are getting in that time, or even about the time. It was more about breathing and allowing your body to be. So, same action, but intention changed altogether. So asana practice changed altogether. And now, earlier it used to drain me out. Now it started energizing me. So I used to begin my day in that way, where, I used to feel energized rather than being drained by that same practice. So your intention will always, always count.
Mm.
No doubt about that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, yeah, coming back to the topic. Yeah. So, last thing for you, for a Gyan Yogi, the fourth pillar. Let me write this down also. It's an intense desire for liberation. Out. Mumukshutva. Okay, it's a mouthful. It's a big word. MUMUKCHUTVA. And this term literally means an intense desire for liberation. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So intense desire for liberation. So, we always perceive yoga as, and when we see a yogi, we think that, it's a path to becoming desireless. It is a path. The yogi does not have any desires, or, we have this general perception of a yogi or a yogini being without desires and overall free from this, because every time we hear about suffering, we are just like, desire is the root of suffering, desire is the root of suffering. And so we just feel like, the person who is actually working on this path will be free of desires. However, even the desire to be liberated is a very strong desire that rises in a yogi, in anybody who is practicing, especially Jnana Yoga. So this stage comes up. Okay. So when they start learning, they start developing, they work on purifying their mind. When you develop vivek, you purify the mind. Then you develop detachment. Then you develop the six virtues. That is when a lot of cleansing has already taken place. So when this entire cleansing takes place, when you go through this process, it's not an easy process, right? To control the mind, to reach to a point where you're controlling the senses, it is not easy at all. But it leads to immense purification. So when you do so many things and then you see what is happening to you, some experiences, we go through certain experiences and then we entirely change our way of living, right? Something like that also happens when you are on the path of Jnana Yoga. You practice so much that you experience something, and that experience actually pushes you towards this intense desire. So it is pushing you. Right now, I had 10 different, suppose very simply put, I had 10 different desires. This is a very less number, little like low number. Okay, 10. But suppose you have 10 desires right now. However, they are all making you run from here to there and there and there. And after that, when you reach the end point, there is no conclusion. Then you again start running. Okay, if I acquire this, I reach this stage, then maybe I will be happy, I will be satisfied. Then again, same thing happens. So even giving rise to the right desire is very important. And right, I am saying why, because this is actually what you are looking for, but it is the world which functions in this way that we think that if we do this, we will reach the point, uh, to our peace, to what we are looking for, right? So actually, we are not trained to even generate the right desires, and we are not even ready. So you'll have to work so hard to reach the right desire, the desire which will actually push you strongly on the path of Gyan Yoga or any yoga, in fact. So anybody who goes on the path of yoga generally eventually experiences this intense desire. When you keep practicing, and then there is some awakening internally. You begin to experience a very different side of yourself. And that is when this desire comes up. No more. I don't want this anymore. I don't want this suffering. There is so much suffering. I don't want it anymore. And when you develop this thing, it's not in a negative sense that you are developing this emotion that I don't want this anymore. It just comes up very naturally from within that now I want to be free. More than now, no more. It's like now I want to be free of all of this. Ab nahi. In Hindi we say ab nahi or nahi. I don't want to go again and again in this circle. Now I want to go towards that, you know, final goal. Then your eyes are set. That is the goal. Then there is no looking back because it is experienced. It is not something that you just attain a desire for just like that. This desire is experienced. And when it is experienced to that depth, that is when the person leaves everything behind. So when we think of a yogi, yogini, and we think they have to leave the world, it scares us. How we are, how do they leave the world? How do they survive? How do they walk for so long and live in nature? Aren't they going to be harmed? How are they going to get food, shelter? All of these thoughts come in, right? But when you experience that intense desire for liberation, nothing will come in your mind. Only going on that path will come in your mind. Your vision will become one pointed. You will be like, now I want to achieve this, and there is no turn back because you have experienced that thing, that no more. Okay, now I want to attain the highest knowledge of all. Same, lot of yogi stories you will hear. So many yogis, they had just one or two mere experiences in their life. Siddharth Gautam had four experiences in his life. The first time he stepped out of his kingdom, he saw how much suffering was there. Before that, he was protected. So when he was born, his father, he was the king, and because when he had the child, he went to uh, a priest, Pandit, and that person gave a very huge prediction for Siddharth Gautam. He said that either he will become a very good king, great king. He will not even become a good king, he will become a great king. Or he will leave everything behind and he will become a great saint. And when his father heard the second one, he got scared. So what he did was for his entire life, Siddharth Gautam, before he left everything, before that, for most of his life, his father kept him in the palace and gave him everything the material world had to offer, you know, and gave him everything that he could ask for. And he was married to one of the most beautiful women of his time, Yashodhara Ji. And then he had a beautiful son. And before this, it so happened he stepped out of his kingdom one time. His father, and in India, when kings, earlier times also, when even if you right now come to India, visit some tourist spots, one of them would be a mahal. You will go to certain regions, you will find mahal. That was the place where the king lived. And when you go to that place, it's a tourist spot in itself. So it is such a huge place, the palace that is made for the king. So he had great, area to even be in. So the house was so big, gardens, everything. So palace is made with that, it's beautiful and it's like surrounded by nature and everything. So no need to go out, step out. But he still did. When he went out, he saw disease, he saw death, and that is when he understood there is so much suffering. So only four incidents he experienced, and it was enough for him to leave behind his entire kingdom, his wealth, his wife, and his son. His son was not very old at that point of time, but he left behind everything to go on the path of yoga. So that is the intensity of the desire that arises. That he never questioned, coming back. he went on his path and he just left. He knew that if he could free himself from this suffering, he could probably help his wife and his son. However, if he wouldn't do that, he would suffer himself and his family would also suffer. Not suffer in the sense that he would not have wealth or would not be able to make wise decisions or there would be any scarcity in his kingdom, but suffering at a very deep level. He had the ability to understand that. So, this is out of all the desires, like even in meditation, out of all the vrittis that you have or all the thoughts that you have, you choose one and you focus on one. So it meditation also one object. So out of all desires, eventually the Gyan Yogi comes on this way where he comes to this one desire of being liberated. Okay. And that is when he or she is ready to step into the core practices because now they are prepared for those truths. Now they are ready to take those truths in. Earlier, because there was no intense desire, if the truth is given before that point, the person will go back on the path. Okay. But once you experience this intense desire to be liberated, you will only go forward on the path. You will not come back. So this point, reaching this point is a very essential part of the entire journey. Okay. So then they enter into the three core practices of Gyan Yoga. You can just write it down. First is Shravan. Shravan. S-H-A-S-H-R-A-V-A-N. I'm writing it down also. Or listening. S-H-R-A-V-A-N. Shravan. Then there is Manan. There is contemplating, contemplation after that. And Nididhyasana. Let me check the spelling one. So now we have come to that stage where meditation has also come in. Okay. So Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasana. These are also in order. Okay. So Shravan, first thing, you have to be prepared to listen to the truth, whatever your guru tells you. At this point of time, by this stage, the Gyan Yogi has mostly, when I say yogi, I'm also including yogini. So it's just, it comes more in flow when I use yogi. So it doesn't mean that it is only for men to practice. It is equally there. The path is equally there for women to also practice. So just assume like in brackets, yogini is also added, but because I go in flow, so I generally do not add yogini along with this. So yogi or a yogini when they reach to the stage of the core practices, they have mostly changed their environment in such a way that they are surrounded by mostly either people who are doing the same thing, or they go into seclusion. But they still need a guru. So at this point of time, there is generally a guru who will guide them. So they cannot go in absolute isolation, because they're still developing, they're still working on developing and establishing themselves into the core practices of Jnana Yoga. Okay, so they have, by this stage, they have at least made their environment such that it supports their sadhana. Okay, so there are various ashrams where people go and they have discourses and everything. So generally people end up in such places where it is like the entire day is about these things only. Okay, so first stage that comes is Shravan, when the student sits with the teacher, and the teacher is, the guru, actually, not the teacher. The guru is giving them the knowledge of the truths, the realities, everything they are going to experience, what is right, what is wrong. All of these truths are now being directly given by the guru. And the guru will also like introduce certain practices which will help the person to experience that, okay, these truths are over there. Okay, so this journey goes simultaneously. Basically, all three of them happens simultaneously. First thing is, guru is teaching, giving knowledge, and the person is now in a state where the body, mind, everything is prepared to receive that knowledge. Okay, so first thing that happens when you are on the path of Jnana Yoga is listening. And listening is a very good skill and quality that a person has. So when you actually listen to something properly, you get the essence of it. Yeah, because it comes on each and every level. So sometimes when you listen to motivational speeches, right, or something that you love listening to, which actually inspires you, or makes you feel that way, so it comes to the feeling level also. See, because if you even hear a motivational speech, you feel good, you feel like doing something. So that is when your ears are actually connected to what is being said. So listening is a quality that the person, like, the core practice goes on throughout the journey. And as the journey goes on, the person also develops more into listening properly. Okay, once the guru has given certain knowledge, so lots of knowledge, yeah, but guru will only give according to the capacity of the student. So whatever knowledge the guru has given in a particular day, the it is the responsibility, duty of the student to contemplate on those things. So manan, which leads to the next stage. So suppose your philosophy class ends after this, yes, and then you have therapy, and after that you have anatomy. After that you get a pause, a while of break in between. Then again and again, then you have classes back to back. So in that pause, maybe you're doing something and a thought crosses your mind related to the class. Suppose therapy class, ma'am says something, and that you're doing something, and suddenly that thing comes up. Then you think a little bit about it. Acha, she has said this thing, she must have said it for a reason. Acha, let me try see why they are saying this. I haven't experienced it, or what would be the logic. So your mind, maybe you don't agree with that thing. So there is a fight that is internal fight that goes on within all of us. That why did she say this thing, or why did this thing happen? Suppose I say something in philosophy, and you start questioning that thing. So how does it apply to my life? Then you will start thinking more deeply about that same thing, right? So this happens whenever you find that space, your mind finds that time, you start thinking about that thing, right? So this is actually what happens when you listen properly. You start contemplating on that thing. The same thing goes for the Gyan Yogi. It is actually their one of their major practices to reflect upon what is being taught to them, and see if suppose they believe in one side, and then somebody else comes in and gives the other side. So they are going to think and contemplate about it. Is that side also true? Is it right? Is it wrong? Is it okay? Is it not okay? Is it real, unreal? So it is a general tendency of the mind, like all of us are not Gyan yogis, but still we have this analytical skill. But the Gyan yogi specifically works on developing this also. Okay, so he starts to question everything, trying to understand everything. Why is this happening? If I'm saying something, if I'm doing something in my life, why am I doing it? Who am I? Or what am I looking for when I'm doing those things? So this deep level of contemplation comes in for whatever they have heard, and they reflect upon their own life, see their own actions, why they are doing those things, or what is the purpose. So integrating that knowledge, this is the mid portion where they are trying to understand, analyze, weigh things out. Okay, so after that they enter into the stage of meditation, which is the point, nididhyasan or meditation. This is the point where they meditate upon the soul reality. Okay, the only reality which is the pure consciousness. Okay, or Brahman, the universal consciousness. They meditate upon, the ultimate reality rather than choosing any other object. They are meditating upon the quality of the ultimate reality, the purity of the ultimate reality, their soul, their consciousness. You can call this anything. If you don't want to believe in it, it's okay. Like, as you experience life, all of us have different conclusions we gain out of it. But for a Gyan Yogi, I'm telling you. So, soul, consciousness, or the energy that is driving us, they meditate upon this truth, this reality, because they want to keep their object the final point. Okay, the point that they want to connect to, rather than using other mediums to reach that one pointedness, to reach that point of meditation rather than concentration. Meditation, they choose their object to be the pure consciousness, the energy that drives them. So they keep going through these three processes again and again. Okay, so it's not like one time this happens, then it will end. Again and again. So they hear something, they think about it, and after that they meditate to actually absorb everything they have heard and to analyze everything they have heard. So meditation also helps one to, you know, calm the mind down so that your analytical skills also get better after you meditate, and your listening skills will also get better after you meditate. So all three of them are in a loop, they support each other, and they are a back to back process. So you cannot put a timeline upon it, it goes again and again. And for this specific reason, the Gyan Yogi, another reason Gyan Yogi is born and not, it can be developed, but mostly Gyan Yogis, you will see, they are born because of this thing only. One thing, that the process is such. And second thing, when you hear the reality, you need to be ready for it. So a lot of people end up leaving the path of Gyan Yoga also because of this. Because it is very hard to digest the reality. Suppose I say that death is the truth of life. Okay, so all of us are very open to hearing about this thing. Okay, death is truth. Or let me at least come to suffering. Suffering is the truth of life. Okay, we hear about this thing. But when we apply it to our life or to the life of someone we see, and then we start seeing those things, it becomes very hard for us to digest. Okay, now you are understanding that every happy moment also, all the happiness that you have experienced, that is also somewhere leading to some, it is creating the space for suffering to also exist. Because suffering, like your sorrow and your happiness, are two sides of the same coin. That is why it is said yoga is the point of balance, samatvam yoga uchyate, where your mind becomes neutral. It neither wants to go into happiness nor sadness. Yeah, so when you start applying it to your life, sometimes people become very anxious. It isn't that easy to digest. It's not a truth that can be digested that easily. It can be read very easily, it can be intellectualized very easily. But when one starts observing their own life, it is a very harsh reality to digest, to change our ways according to that thing, right? So to be on the path of Gyan Yoga is a very, requires a very strong will and a very strong mind. Okay. So overall, Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga are said to be easier to, uh, imbibe and to practice. Then Gyan Yoga comes in. After that, Gyan Yoga is a little bit more, higher than these two, in the sense that the mind has to be more ready, more developed. And then finally, the path of Raj Yoga, which we will start from Monday. Yeah. So Raj Yoga is the highest of all of these. So for Raj Yoga also you need to have some level of preparation to enter into that. A beginner can also start, but even the starting point is, um, requires you to have certain qualities within you. Even just start on the journey of Raj Yoga. It is there for a beginner. However, there are some virtues, there is some level of Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga you would have practiced before you enter into Raj Yoga. Okay. Any doubts in anything I have touched upon today? Okay.
No, it's very interesting. Thank you.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Vraiment.
Okay, great. So from Monday, we are going to start with Raj Yoga, and on 26th, you will have your last class. Okay. And then I will give you all assignments, and then you can email those to me. So I will tell you more about it when the time comes. For now, we have a few more classes left, and you have the Sunday coming up. So let's end today's session. It's already 12, so your therapy class is going to start. So I will just end with Om Shanti. So Om Shanti to everyone, and I will see all of you in your pranayam class. And happy weekend to all of you. Enjoy your Sunday. Yeah. So bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.